Welcome back to This Guy's Horse. I'm going to try something a little bit different today. So earlier this week, I was scrolling through my Instagram and I realized that Nissan debuted the R35 yet again. But what really caught me off guard was their post on it. It says, "Not sure you're ready for this one. Say hello to the new Japan market GTR." What do you mean you're not sure I'm ready for this? We've been ready for this. We've been ready since 2007, the year I graduated high school, and I still thought that was cool. All right, so what's the issue here? The issue that we're running into is that the public is tired of the R35 and Nissan is going out of their way to extend the life of this dinosaur as opposed to stopping production to go in a direction that would make more sense to the consumer base. Over the life of the GTR, there really have only been about 12,000 sales since 2007. Now I know the GTR is priced way above the new Nissan Z, but there should be more people buying this car for it to be in production this long. And while they should move on or scale back or do something different, they're just not. They're releasing these new variants that just don't make sense to continue to do because every time there's a new variant, it goes up in price. But if you really wanted to, you could get a 2009 for about $40,000. It's going to have multiple owners, and this channel kind of strives on having cars that are good and don't have, I don't want to say good, but don't have such a sordid past. You want kind of that good car, so you have a good starting base, but if you really, really wanted a GTR, I think you can go out of the way to have it. And the sales numbers that I'm going to provide to you prove that this vehicle really isn't a success. By all accounts, it is a great car and has some amazing styling and variants like the GTR 50 or McDonald's Tomica Happy Set. It is so far from what the R34 did and stood for in car culture that it's hard to ignore all its flaws. We live in an area where we want inconvenience in our toys. And the big question is, why is there no manual? Automatic ship faster. That's fantastic, but I just don't care. I didn't buy the Subaru because it was automatic. I bought it because it was an inconvenience. There's even memes out there where someone's like, wow, that's a really beautiful car. And they go and they look inside and they see it's automatic and they're like, oh, I'm instantly turned off by the idea of what this car and what it stands for. I'm not hating on automatics. I do understand their purpose, but this is a sports car. Why would you take the sports out of a sports car? To fix some of these eras, companies like Toyota and their Mark V Supra, which debuted as a strictly automatic car, but the backlash was so significant that they made a manual, and they made it clear when that car came out they were not going to issue the car with a manual transmission. But car culture spoke, and they said, we want that manual. It doesn't matter what you think is best. Do you want us to buy this car? Do you want us to make this a $50, $60, $70,000 investment plus the $10,000 dealer fees? We need that for us to get there. But with the R35, it's just, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? Why are we continuing to perpetuate this car that just nobody is buying? If you look in 2021, literally only 300 cars were sold. 300 cars. This is Godzilla. This is the Halo car. This is what people want, and no one is buying them. You're going to tell me that it costs less to redesign a bumper, a whole fascia, update the interior, and then only sell 300 of these cars? What are we doing? Nissan, hear us. We want to move on. Yes, we got the Nissan Z, but that's not what we're talking about. The new Z is wonderful. The new Z is amazing, but the R34 and R35 stand for something. They stand for this monumental piece of car culture and history that just isn't given to us anymore. And now it's just like, hey, let's, put lipstick on a pig and see if we can push this out a little bit longer. All right, so where do we go from here? Honestly, it's hard to say. The R35 sticks out like a sore thumb in comparison to the other GTR models. The R34, like I keep harping on, it was so good. And it's just, I can't even bring myself to say that this is the successor to the R34. It's just not. Like I said, in 2007, there was a lot going on. There was a financial crisis, and the housing bubble, which affected the entire world, and other kind of weird cars came out around that time. But to go from something as beloved as the R34 to the R35, it just doesn't make sense. I don't want to see another sports car put out to pasture, but because the R35 has such a good power plant. Now, I'm not arguing against the R35 being a good car. I think my big point is that the R35 just needs to be retired. The R35 power plant has some amazing internals and build specification. Like currently, Chris Warburg has the VR38 in his new Z Drift car, and it puts out almost 1,300 horsepower. I would be willing to bet money that if you took the VR38 out of the R35, put it into the new Z with the manual transmission, you will without a doubt sell more Zs with the VR38 than you did in the past 5 years of R35s alone. I think Nissan has options, but they're choosing to play it safe and not lose the halo car in their lineup. There's been a history of the Z competing with the GTR, and they're just two separate levels of cars. Like one is for your everyday guy, or gal who goes to work every day and makes a decent living, saves up, pays off his bills, and gets that cool sports car that he gets to drive to work every day. And then there's the GTR, which is somebody who ended up making a lot more money over the course of their life, saved up and bought one and was like, I want the best of the best, and that's what they got. But it just didn't make sense to commit to something that wasn't worth your while. If you're spending $150,000 on a car, you're in Ferrari territory, and it's like, why would I get a Nissan when I could have the appeal of a Ferrari? When can we get to this new R36 that I wish could come to market? Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. The new Nissan Z just released, and I'm sure that took tons of manpower and money and effort to bring to market. And you could argue that Nissan absolutely knocked it out of the park, which it did. I want one. If it had a back seat, please. But that's another conversation. But to get to R36 of our dreams, I assume that we're about 3 to 4 years out, and that's if they started development the moment the new Z became available to buy at your local Nissan dealership. And it just doesn't make sense that it would come out soon. Like, if they, in the background, were just plugging away at this beautiful new car that was just all done up with the bells and whistles, I think we could see one come out, but I just don't. So why make this video? I think it's important to make this video because I think we all believe in Nissan as a brand and a company, and that the R35 is an amazing car, and it has been for 15 years. 15 years. I don't want to age myself here, but that's a little bit less than half of my lifetime. It's time for something new, something for the next generation of car enthusiasts. Like, I'm going to look back on the R35 and probably be like, man, I should have bought one of those. But then I'm always going to come back to, well, it was never manual. It really, as a car, didn't make sense. I'm sure it's won a bunch of races, but like, those aren't the cars you're buying. You're not buying the one that's, ready to go. You're buying like a commuter car, essentially, like a fast commuter car. And the ones that are winning races, are gutted, have full roll cages, have a, upgraded motor, upgraded turbos. Like, you're not buying that. And you could argue, oh, the Nismo one, and yeah, they come stock with 700 horsepower, but who's buying them? Apparently it's no one, because like I said earlier, 300 cars. 300 cars. No one is buying these. To put that into perspective, Nissan sold almost 4 million cars in 2021. 4 million cars. And out of those 4 million, only 300 of them were GTRs. Like, something doesn't add up. We want a car where the styling isn't just thrown together. Pull the audience, go outside the company, go to literally any Instagrammer who can use CAD and be like, hey, we could use some help. Like, what isn't working with this car? And they're going to be like, let's go back to the drawing board and actually give us a sequel to the R34, something that's amazing. And I know the R33 wasn't that well received, but you can still look back on that car and be like, that car was amazing. That car did so much. It took us out of like that early 90s style, and it really gave us a very elegant, I don't want to say bubbly, but like, clean lined car. And people were like, oh, it's not what we really wanted. And Nissan listened, and they're like, cool, here's the car of the future, R34. And then they were just like, we got to come out with the R35, and then just took a huge step back. We need something that fits in with the previous lineup of cars. More aggressive, less bubbly, more nimble, a manual transmission, maybe come down on the price a little bit, because it's just in this weird price range where it's a big commitment for people who really aren't going to buy this car. Like you said, at 4 million cars, like, to only sell 300 of these, or to only make 300 of these, if that was like their quota and they're like, okay, we did it, that's great, like, it's still a success for them. But if I was in charge of a multi-billion-dollar company, I would want to sell more than 300 units of anything, regardless of the cost. Like, if it was a one-of-one prototype car, that's a completely different scenario. This isn't a mass-produced car that should be in every state. I mean, you could imagine that out of 50 states, there were only 6 sold in each state. That doesn't make sense. That just doesn't add up. From all of us, Nissan, go back and figure out what made the R34 special. Find out what made people all around the world go, that car is awesome, where can I get one of those? Give the R35 the send-off it deserves and start working on something new. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this type of video. I was kind of nervous to put it up. I wasn't sure how you would respond, if you'd click it or you wouldn't click it, but I felt like it needs to be said. R35 needs to be retired. But don't forget, we're doing our 1,000 subscriber special. If we can get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the January, we will do the modification of your choice to the Subaru. Write down below what you think. If you guys have your own opinions, what you think of the R35, what mod we should do to the Subaru, or if we should just stick to Subaru content, or I should just get off the internet. Let me know. Thanks for liking, thanks for subscribing. If you made it this far, I appreciate you guys being here.